I'd say the 5-month-old sleeps better than that than I have to get alone. Well, we touched off last time about the natural resources boom in Arkansas. It sounds like about 1920, with some few tragic exceptions, that Arkansas was really starting to pick up everything. The economy was improving, agricultural prices rising, the timber industry is picking up. Mining in West Arkansas had improving railroad networks. Roads were starting to come into, passable roads that starting to come into parts of the state by the 1920s. The oil boom of the mid-1920s. You have the diamond boom of 1906. Johnny Cash was born in the 1930s. There was a time in Arkansas we had it all. There was a time we had it all. So we're going to talk one of those little occasions when we had it all, about the oil boom. I'll pass out to you here is a map of a major oil fields in Arkansas. Yeah, I could have done that.
Thanks anyway.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Good intentions.
Yeah.
Now, oil is only found in the 10 southern counties of Arkansas, from Little River County on over to Chico County. Most of it found here, as you can see, it tends to be these fields, Columbia, Union, Ouachita counties. I say geologists kind of noticed in terms of the rock formations that the oil kind of left, well, its fingerprints on the region. Like I said, the oil only found in the southern parts of the state. The western parts of the state have a lot of natural gas production. Still fairly active exploration and well completion in west Arkansas. Very rarely would you have any kind of a lot of new well completion in this part of the state, but it does happen every once in a while. The State Oil and Gas Commission has two offices, one in Fort Smith, one here in El Dorado off of Hillsborough Street, because of our position in the oil-producing region. And so exploration of gas in the early 1900s and 1910s, natural gas was known to exist in southwestern Arkansas. And speculators were kind of rummaging in and out of the area, trying to find, digging exploratory wells, trying to find the oil. But they could never quite make it work. So you have all sorts of people coming in and out of town looking for it. About 1920, a man named Samuel T. Busey comes into town, kind of globe-trotting position, makes him more interested in making a quick buck than practicing medicine. Comes to El Dorado on rumors there's supposed to be oil wandering in out here. There've been a couple of wells that produced like a half a barrel and played out, but he suspected there's more. They bought out a small hotel here and bought out a couple sites here and started drilling for oil. Now, deposits discovered by 1920 in Ouachita and Union County can be known as the El Dorado Pool. It's a huge pool of oil, miles beneath our feet. And the El Dorado Pool and the Smackover Field together have some of the largest deposits of oil were known to exist in the United States at that time. Well, 1921, while Busey's digging a well back mile deep, he hits oil. It's a big old gusher well. Gas starts spewing out to the surface. About a mile southwest of town this time, about where that Hillsborough Street is, about where the oil and gas commission site is. Oil was spraying for all over the area, out in the sky and then out and down onto people's laundry. And that everyone knew El Dorado now is the place to be oil exploration. This touched off the oil boom. 1921, by the end of 1921, 500 wells were dug near El Dorado, producing 10 million barrels of oil. Another discovered across South Arkansas. This graph here shows the oil production amounts. So the discovery of oil changed El Dorado and South Arkansas overnight. Thousands of people came to El Dorado to try to Union County pursuit of oil, pursuit of their fortunes. Some of them made it. For example, Colonel T.H. Barton, early part of the century, been this traveling insurance salesman, selling insurance door to door, had a very lackluster life, but came to El Dorado, had gone into business for himself with a few partners, formed Line Oil. Line Oil was actually formed by local business partners. Murphy Oil was actually founded by a couple of the natural gas and oil interests in northern Louisiana. They export from here. UC Barton became very wealthy because of the funds. People were swarming into town trying to find the oil. In fact, the state legislature was in session at that time the UC well was discovered. All members of the state legislature left Little Rock and came to El Dorado on a special train to investigate the findings. And yes, a couple of them started investigating. So many people came to the area that the roads were clogged with oil and mud, and the every spare room was filled. In fact, people were renting. Instead of people renting rooms, spare rooms they had in their homes for hundreds of dollars a month. Out of the boom, because the money was there and people were willing to pay it. All people was living in tents on outside of town. Had one guy tell me that his parents in the boom that there are so many mules coming in and out of El Dorado on the dirt roads in this area that there's one mule actually drowned in the mud because the roads has gotten so bad, it just couldn't handle all the traffic. Well, El Dorado became a haven for a kind of roughnecks, people working in the oil fields. Some areas came pretty rough. Of course, that hasn't changed much, but a lot of bars, houses of ill repute, very nasty. A lot of places in El Dorado you wouldn't want to take your family to. Spring up all over. And by the time of the boom, about 1926-27, El Dorado had a population of about 25,000 people. By August of 1921, 5 refineries were operating in El Dorado. Line Oil was far away the most successful. And within 1921, they had 2 trains daily going from Little Rock to El Dorado. They were trying to get their cut of the oil boom. And in 1922, the Smackover field was discovered, even bigger than the El Dorado field. People started swarming into Smackover. So with the Smackover field, Smackover, that same thing happened to it. And very briefly, there actually were more people in Smackover than El Dorado. You can imagine that. And since it's whittled back to 2,500 from its peak of 25,000. And so much oil being produced that for a very brief period, South Arkansas essentially was the oil capital of the United States. But they had a lot of problems with so much production all at once. See, for one thing, they didn't have a lot of places to store this oil. They had a lot of refineries pumping out this oil. They didn't have a lot of places to store it. So in some places, they're digging these big earthen pits to store oil in. The problem is, what happens when it rains? fills out all of our water. That's why a lot of the tap water here still has a nice tangy aftertaste. But also, to be able to get that oil from a mile deep underground up to the surface, you have to pump it out with gas, natural gas. And a lot of pumping operations, they burn off that natural gas as it came to the surface as they're getting the oil, which what they really wanted. Natural gas, in a lot of cases, seen as a waste product. Because so much oil being drained so fast, probably by the 1930s, in the 1920s and 1930s, all the natural gas depleted and became very difficult to drill more oil out. So there's still huge deposits of oil beneath our feet, but don't know any way of getting them out. Oil prices recently reached a high of a record high of $59 a barrel. So you still see a couple of oil pumps here and there, but the oil price is so high, those pumps run off electricity, and I'll be able to see the cost of running these pumps is too cost prohibitive to keep drilling. But El Dorado has made its mark now as an oil town. Tons of money coming into the area. In fact, still see a lot of old oil money floating around town. As a result, the town was almost completely rebuilt. The old town essentially is torn down. There are very few buildings El Dorado built before 1927. Because those sites were torn down and new buildings, bigger buildings, better buildings were built on top of them. New City Hall completed down off West Avenue, completed 1927 for $125,000. They've added on to it a little bit since then. The old courthouse burned down, so they rebuilt a new one downtown, 1928. The fire was just an accident. You can see a lot of these old churches around town here built late 1920s from oil money. Oil is still a critical component of the community's economy, but because there's so much, because there's not a lot in production anymore, primarily it's in refining. As you can see, it reached peak in 1927, nearly 80 million barrels of oil produced in Arkansas, but the late 1930s, it dropped just to over 10 million barrels. Now, in the late 30s, there's kind of a revival in the oil industry to last until the 1960s. And the city's fortunes kind of played with it. The oil production kind of insulated El Dorado to an extent from economic problems elsewhere in other industries, particularly agriculture, timber, manufacturing, whatever. Or there'd be a recession, the oil industry kind of carried the area through. But because of declining oil production, town's fortunes kind of sagged with it. The last unemployment numbers I saw last year, the city had like 9% unemployment. But for a while, El Dorado was rolling in it. That's why El Dorado still today is such an important community in this area. Without oil, El Dorado would be, well, Camden. Industry was proliferating in such areas as Little Rock, Fort Smith. Little Rock, they had foundries, machine shops, production of mattresses and spring beds, clothing, furniture. 1919, Arkansas had the Arkansas Climber Company. This automobile company came on just after World War I. See, it's designed to be a car made for the middle class, men of modest means, extravagant, not cheap, but designed for durability. That was its big selling point, was the Climber had it was designed to be able to drive on rough roads and to climb over hills, steep hills. But by 1920, they were producing about 2 a day. But the company never really got off the ground. It had a bunch of money problems. There's kind of a glut in the automobile production market. And by the late 1920s, the Clymer company was forced to close its doors. So Arkansas's only car producer shut down. In fact, there are only just a couple left known to exist. One of them is at the Antique Car Museum in Pettigene Mountains. So Arkansas's flirtation as being an auto manufacturer fell away too. That's another thing Arkansas had. Be proud. Fort Smith was producing all sorts of products, furniture, refrigerators, carriages, wagons. They start seeing increase in urban population, more jobs coming available. 1910, 12.9% of the state is urban. By 1920, 16.6%, 1 out of every 6 Arkansans lives in the city. Get a couple numbers on population. 1920, Little Rock population average is 65,142. Fort Smith, 28,870. Pine Bluff, 19,280. Hot Springs, 11,695. As after a very brief period during the 1920s, Elroy and Smacko were 3rd and 4th largest cities in the state. And during this period, also have the came known as the Progressive era. After about 1906, the Progressives gained control of the state Democratic Party and embarked on a number of ambitious reforms. That pretty much controlled the state till about state party politics till about the 1940s. At the time, have Homer Adkins as governor. What was that? No, Ben Ramsey. 40 years. Some are more progressive than others. Looking at reforms and trying to build roads, improve the schools, became the main focus of progressives during this time period. But in spite of the progress the state was showing, there were some problems on the horizon. For example, World War I came along in 1917. It didn't affect the state a whole lot. There wasn't a lot of industry to speak of, so there wasn't a lot of conversion to wartime production, but the farmers were producing for wartime production. Say it's during World War I that daylight savings time came into effect to help maximize the farm production. And the cows are still out there, so we still need to have daylight savings time. Germans are very wily.
Is there some states or a state that's not as good as?
Yeah, there are a couple states that are like, have a friend station in Hawaii, so they don't have daylight savings time out there. A couple other states, I can't think of them right off. Say several thousand Arkansans went to World War I. Good number of them lost their lives. Returned back to Arkansas after the war, and Arkansas pretty much was in status quo. It's not to say about Arkansas's contribution to World War I, except the men who went and gave their lives for the cause. But the state still had a number of problems, particularly in race issues. So there's a deep-seated racism still a simmer in Arkansas. Very tragic results because of this. In 1915, the Ku Klux Klan began to rise again. A dentist of all people in Georgia decided he's going to revive the Klan. And Klan organization spread, not this time just across the South, but this time across the entire United States. The feeling was that the Klan's image of America as a Protestant, white nation, they decided that it was up to them to protect America as they saw it from immigration, civil rights, women's suffrage, alcohol, excesses of the city, basically everything they saw they felt wrong in the United States. Anti-Catholic, they're anti-minority, anti-women, anti-intellectual, anti-alcohol, just about anti-everything. South Arkansas in particular became a hotbed of Ku Klux Klan activity. In fact, still is today. There are 5 Ku Klux Klan organizations known to be operating within 50 miles of El Dorado. One in Smacko, one in El Dorado, one in Magnolia, 2 in Home. Southern Poverty Law Center, they track the hate groups. Had like 28 hate groups operating in the state of Arkansas. There are lots of things illegal going on in El Dorado. The thing is, though, about the Klan sympathizers is they can think anything they want. They can say anything they want. But if they act on it, that's where they're going to jail. At Southern Poverty Law Center, it's founded by a nephew of a man who had been the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan in 1971. He has successfully sued several Ku Klux Klan organizations, forcing many of them into bankruptcy because of their activities. But they haven't been able to get anything on Klan organizations here.
So legally, they're allowed to form an organization?
Yeah. Say if they're not breaking the law, if they're not assaulting anyone or threatening anyone, they can do that.
Didn't they have a couple of years ago at the courthouse? Didn't they have like a big?
Yeah, it's
I mean,
I was teaching my African American history class. There's a lady telling me a story. Said, they planned this big rally on the courthouse lawn. Everyone was upset about it, but wasn't a lot they could do about it because they're going to be there peacefully. Said on that day, and not 15 nice, pleasant day, but all of a sudden storm clouds gathered. A very ominous feel in the sky. Klan went home. No rally. So there's somebody looking out for us.
She was saying, as long as they don't act on the thought, it's like the Constitution, protects everybody. So,
Freedom of speech. Our United States what it is.
so that's where it couldn't be given a law for them.
Yeah, there are some states considered what we call hate crimes, hate speech and hate crimes legislation, but that hasn't gotten very far in Arkansas. And saying that, for example, it's illegal to burn a cross. Now, why Klansmen claiming to be protecting Christianity, but somehow burning crosses, I can't figure that one out. For example, the dragging of James Byrd, the lynching death in 1998. I knew the cousins of James Byrd said they were deeply upset by what happened. One of these men did try to murder and convicted, but that time they wanted the state of Texas to pass a hate crimes legislation to anything that is racially motivated that would become a crime, additional crime in addition to whatever else you've done. And they gone to, at that time, the governor was George W. Bush, but Bush refused to sign it. They just told him, I'm not going to sign it. And just basically days after they buried the man. Next reason was that if a man is lynched, then that means that would mean that his life was worth more than someone else's. Say if a white man kills a black man, it means some critics of hate crime legislation said that would mean that the black man's life was worth more than the white man, which wasn't necessarily true. Motive is an important part of the law. For example, suppose a car company manufactures a car they know it's defective, know that fuel tanks can explode or something on impact, and they sell it anyway. Is that murder? Someone dies, that would be what they call the negligent homicide, or because it wasn't their deliberate intent to kill somebody. But murder, something else, you're deliberately going out to try to kill somebody. The theory of hate crime legislation is going to kill somebody and use that to make a statement, a terroristic statement against other members of the community. That we're going to conspire to deny a whole group of people their rights under the Constitution because we don't like them. Now, murder is one person, it's tends to stop with just that one person, but hate crimes, it's a message to that entire community. That was one of the things behind lynchings in the early 20th century was, remember, some whites trying to send a message to some blacks and others that they did not want African Americans to have civil rights or consider themselves to be equal to whites. It's a very tragic case. In fact, I've actually had some students tell me they've seen Klan rallies from their homes in this area.
They're not the only one that was close to that. I didn't know they were close.
I'd say it's the Klan is not as powerful as it used to be, so it's something kept very quiet.
Because me and my husband was going to Hot Spring one night when he was late, and we rode up like between Smackover and Elliott, this little town.
Yeah.
We saw some on the highway one night when we was on our way up there. And we was
Stuff happens in Arkansas. That part's there are hate groups operating in all 50 states. In fact, there actually were more hate crimes committed in the North than there were in the South the last several years. But like I say, times have changed here in the country, and it's most racial attitudes are fairly conciliatory, at least most people have a live and let live attitude, but there's still a lot of people just seething with racism. In fact, I remember this lady telling me that a black family joined their church and sold her white, a couple older white men walked out. See, particularly the older generation, there's still some of the younger generation still fairly racist, but just because attitudes today is some overt racist attitudes or something just not acceptable to be expressed, but those feelings still exist. Remember the old joke, how all racist jokes start. Make sure everyone's listening.
But don't you think that it's over time, just in my experience, I know my mother went to a segregated high school. Now my son doesn't know, unless when he's sitting in his history book, will be the only time he'll ever know about segregation, whereas my mother experienced it, so she was still part of the racist, not that she's a racist, but her father may have been, I don't know. But I'm just saying my little boy has no thoughts like that at all.
That's a very positive development. Attitudes are starting to change, but there's still those attitudes there. Because these changes are going very recent. civil rights act only went into effect 40 years ago.
It seems like my generation would be the starting point because my mother's generation was the last of the segregated.
And like I said, these changes are recent, it happened, some of y'all here, these changes happened in y'all's lifetimes and your parents' lifetimes. Very, very recent, those attitudes are still being, some of those attitudes are still being taught. I had a new man who moved from St. Louis, moved here to El Dorado, he was shocked by the racial attitudes. So it's like walking back in time 40 years. Say, but the classroom setting we have here today, this would have been unthinkable even 30 years ago. An integrated college classroom. Maybe one mostly women.
Mississippi is also still a very segregated state, and there are some sections that the kids don't, they either go to an all-white school or go to an all-black school.
It wasn't just a few years ago that, in the town that we lived in South Louisiana, that they still had a black high school and a white high school, and they, still to this day, they have separate proms. They have a black prom and a white prom.
There's still a lot of work left to do. See, not all races wear white hoods and those dumb white sheets. Actually, it's led to a lot of essentially, because of the years of very horrifying acts that have been on the African Americans, a lot of African Americans and a lot of whites simply do not trust each other. And so there's just a lot of some people very resentful on both sides, and especially the African American community, very understandable. There's probably not an African American family in the South that was not touched by lynching in some way. I heard the story. This man was running for Virginia Secretary of State. This is really just only a few years ago. He's trying to get him to register to vote and get him to vote on election day. He said, "I'm already registered. I'll vote on election day." But this guy was trying to get him to vote early because they had early voting in Virginia. He said, "No, I'll vote on election day." And he's saying, "Well, you know, the vote counts the same. You can go ahead and vote early." You know, candidates, political candidates, all everything they try to do is they try to identify who their voters are, try to get the polls as soon as possible. This man's an elderly African American gentleman. He's insisting, "No, I'm going to vote on election day." Finally, he, after persisting, the man says, "Look, son, come around the back here. Let me show you something." He wants this huge oak tree in the back. He says, "Son, my daddy came from World War I. He had $1 in his pocket. He used to pay the poll tax to vote." Well, when he tried to pay, the night after he tried to pay the poll tax, the Ku Klux Klan came and hanged my daddy from that tree. So I vote on election day. Saying time does not erase those kind of memories, those kind of feelings. But each new generation, though, attitudes are starting to change. And if you want attitudes to change, it has to start with you. You have to make sure you really are teaching your kids right from wrong. Not just telling them the words, but actions. Because I see this sometimes. People's attitudes sometimes change. It's their very body language change to talk to someone of a different race. And suddenly they might have more defensive posture or might shy back a little bit. People notice those things. Saying, yeah, it does hurt too. About the very horrifying incident was in a lane in 1919. Essentially a race war. This is part of the new rise of the Klan and the outpouring of race hatred in the area just after World War I. Forrest and Elaine. One of the few national events of national consequence to occur in Arkansas in the first half of the 20th century is the so-called Elaine race riot in 1990. This is more a murder spree than a riot, a grisly horror hardly imaginable now, though not still well remembered by whole residents of Phillips County. The riot grew from a nighttime shootout at a black church near the Elaine community in the Cockville Delta near the Mississippi River south of Helena, September 30, 1990. Apparently what happened was a couple of sheriff's deputies were riding around town, a car broke down. They had wandered along here and saw this activity at this black church. What was happening was they're trying to form this, some local African Americans trying to form this agricultural union, basically a union of farm workers. Well, they encountered each other, a scuffle broke out, and the story continues here. A white lawman was killed, another wounded, and hail of gunfire. So the events of that night are disputed to this day, but whatever happened triggered a week-long program of violence, vigilantism, and mass murder. The day after the shooting at the church, reports circulated that thousands of armed blacks had assembled in the Lane area with the intention of rampaging through Phillips County, killing all the white folks and seizing the cotton plantations. Responsible white mob rose up from the county, randomly killing blacks or rounding them up and declaring them prisoners. There's no idea at all as to who was doing what, but whites were rounding up blacks, shooting them, killing them, detaining them. While the Rivers and panic fueled the situation, Carlos, a racist, poured into the area from Mississippi and Tennessee, eager to get on killing and mayhem. The next day, Governor Charles Rowe, the moon-faced former college economics professor who called himself a progressive, accompanied a detachment of nearly 600 Army troops from North Little Rock at the scene. The soldiers disarmed the populace and did what they could with martial law to stop the night rioting and prevent additional lynchings. The violence continued for sporadically for several days. It isn't known how many people died in it. Apparently 5 whites were killed, while white deaths may have numbered in the hundreds. The thing is, they just don't know how many people died in the Lane race riots. A number were killed. Some they just never found bodies to. Some African Americans may have been scared off and disappeared without a trace. At that time, it was very easy for an African American to basically sit through the system and disappear. We just don't know how many people died. So for all the black people who died, though, not a single white person has indicted or brought to trial. Not one. That is not at all unusual this time period. Other people were charged with terrible. 122 African Americans had died by a Phillips County grand jury. 77 of them charged with murder. Within 6 weeks, all these defendants have been given trials of this sort, but found guilty about all white jury to Helena. And 12 Phillips County African American men who were designated as ringleaders, supposed insurrections, they called it, were tortured into confessions of murder, promptly sentenced to death by electrocution. Said tortured into confessing. Basically, they were beaten into their life to confess, sign a confession, or admit that they were responsible for this. Now, see, the scandalous false representation of their trials is they couldn't afford lawyers, so none of them could find for them. That had not been the law in the United States until about 1963. The jury found 4 minutes were returning at the guilty verdict against one of them. 55 at one time, after deliberating for 6 minutes. The most time spent for picking any one of the defendants was 9 minutes. The outcome of all this was as unlikely as events that precipitated. 12 men weren't executed. What happened after this was that these 12 men convicted and sentenced to death was create a national uproar. The newly formed NAACP, its legal branch, came in to try to rescue these men from the death from the electric chair. It was the first protracted legal fight waged by the NAACP and was a dramatic success. They ever get appeals, new trials for these men. And in the end, came to be known as the Elaine 12 were set free. As this time they had legal representation and the law was made to work for them. But it took 5 years to do it. 5-year-long legal battle to save those men culminated in the landmark U.S. Supreme Court decision, Moore versus Dempsey, written by Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, delivered in 1923. Said the federal court with broad authority to review criminal trials in state courts in order to ensure that the constitutional rights of defendants were not violated. That is, the federal courts do have the right to review constitutionality of state court actions. The authorities taken for granted today before Moore v. Dempsey, state courts ranked criminal trial pretty much as they saw fit, little protect for prospect of federal detention. Holmes considered it an outrage that the state considered itself to be dispensing justice because it conducted a criminal trial according to prescribed norms. It is our duty, he wrote, to declare lynch law as little valid when practiced by a regularly drawn jury as when administered by one elected by a mob intent on death. So the entire story of the Elaine race riot or race war, still don't know all the answers to it. How many people died? But no, even after the riots ended, another lynching about to take place at the hands of the court, just narrowly prevented. In 1921 in Mississippi County, the governor at that time, Thomas Chipman McRae, had proposed to send the Arkansas National Guard troops to defend a black suspect, African-American man in the Mississippi County Jail accused of murder, and the danger of a riot occurring. And McRae wanted to take this man in protective custody to take him back to Little Rock. Well, the sheriff of Mississippi County said, I have a situation in control, don't worry about it, don't send any troops here. Well, white mob surrounded the jail, and the sheriff let the mob in to kill the man in his cell. Well, McRae was infuriated by this. He proposed a law that would remove any official who would allow such a scene to occur, that would allow the murder of a suspect in custody by a mob. But the legislature, though, refused to support such legislation, and the law died. A lot of this Klan activity came to had basically between those trying to stay in the past, trying to turn the clock back to 1860, and those essentially trying to move the state forward. Back in 1922, as part of the oil boom here in South Arkansas, all the people running back and forth to this county, all the kind of rough parts of town, a lot of Klan members decided they didn't like all these newcomers coming in to smack over and raid them. So 200 Klansmen went on a riot, went a rampage through a smackover, burned gambling halls, saloons, had 200 businesses destroyed in and around Smackover. And the Washita and Union County Sheriffs just stood by what had happened. The Washita County Sheriff estimated that 2,000 what he calls undesirables were forced out of the area, as all the oil field workers ran for their lives. And so the Klan was becoming a political force in Arkansas. By 1922, it's estimated that 25,000 Klan members existed in Arkansas. And they intend on becoming a political force as well. And I say it's not a function of party, it's a function of where the power was. In the South, the Klan went to where the power was, which was the only political organization available, the Democratic Party. It meant there were intense fights between the regular Democratic organization and Klan forces. In some cases, the regular Democrats were able to beat the Klan, sometimes not. Say Texas elected a Klan senator, Oklahoma, 1922 elected a Klan governor, a Klan legislature. A couple years later, a Klan governor was elected in Georgia. In the North, that went to where the power was there, was the Republican Party. In Indiana, the Klan gained control of the state Republican Party, electing numerous members of the state legislature, several congressmen, even a governor. Well, in Arkansas, the Pulaski County Klan basically tried to agree on submitting a single candidate, essentially kind of a Klan primary in Arkansas. As the Klan has been trying to decide who their Klan candidate would be in the Democratic primary, put all this work behind getting that man to win the primary, which essentially was the election. They pushed very hard. McRae had never been a member of the Klan. He had condemned them, but his personal secretary was a member of the Klan, ironically enough. But this attempt to try to push a single Klan candidate to cause a lot of problems, a lot of splits in the Klan organization. Essentially filled with so much hate, they're now turning on each other and trying to fill their empty spot in their souls with power, greed, ambition, whatever they can find, but not able to fill it. So it's, by 1924, there are serious splits being starting to be shown in the Klan, statewide Klan organization. So in 1924, these splits in the Klan leadership led the election of a non-Klansman, Tom Terrell, as the Democratic candidate for governor. And non-Klan candidates rushed to maintain control of the state party, to supporting an anti-Klan platform. At that time, about 1925-26, the Klan essentially parted itself out. By the 1930s, coming a little more of a fringe organization across the country, still having a lot of sympathizers. The Klan did not start rising again until the late 1920s, when 1950s, 1960s, when civil rights movement started emerging again. Well, in the meantime, there were a number of attempts to try to bring reform to Arkansas through the Progressives. In 1903, a group of businessmen formed came to known as the Arkansas Good Roads Association. Essentially trying to get the business support for improving roads in Arkansas, roads that the automobiles could ride on. And slowly it gained support. It's very slow of moving. It's very expensive to try to build roads. It's not something you do very cheaply. And so road progress is very slow in Arkansas. In fact, even today, the roads still aren't very good. In fact, in the 1930s, it would take a half a day to get from Strong to El Dorado because the roads were so bad. Road problems impassable in some areas. Dirt roads, bridges washed out, sometimes just can't get from point A to point B very easily. Women are also part of the progressive forces in Arkansas. The Arkansas Federation of Women's Clubs push for improvements in government. And the Federation of Women's Clubs also push for child welfare departments, see that the children are not being taken care of, not being abused, neglected, taking care of those children. Child labor laws, make sure that you don't have 14-year-old kids working in mines and factories, or even younger than that. There are also attempts to try to push for women's votes. 1911, you have the formation of the Political Equality League in Little Rock. A woman named Mary Fletcher was the first president. In 1914,